Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's education event, Supporting Your Loved One, the Challenges of Caregiving. My name is Aurelis Cortez, and I'm the event coordinator here at TurningPoint. We are definitely grateful that you guys are here supporting Naynette as she delivers this topic. Before we get started, just as a reminder, we are recording today's session. We will be uploading it into our Facebook page and our YouTube channel, so you can go back later and watch it and share it with others that you may, that may want to listen into this information. So just want to welcome everyone. Before I turn it over to Naynette, just as a reminder about Turning Point and who we are a 501c3 nonprofit. We depend on community support, and if you look at the monitor, these are some of our socially responsible partners that really allow us to bring these events to you free of charge. There are local businesses, but we also have a lot of individuals that just support Turning Point, and because of them, we're able to bring these events to you without free of charge. So we always want to thank them and give them a shout out. So this is a Q&A event session. So if you guys have any questions, please use the Q&A box typically on the bottom of the screen, and we'll make sure that we get those questions answered. So thank you for your time this morning, and I'll go ahead and turn it over to Naynette.
Well, good morning. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. So as Aurelis said, I am Dr. Naynette Kennett, and I am the counselor at Turning Point, for those of you who may have never met me. And today we're going to talk about supporting your loved one and some of the challenges of being a caregiver, whether it's a family caregiver, friend, but we're going to talk about how can you take care of yourself as well as take care of your loved one. All right, so the lives changes instantaneously when a woman is diagnosed with breast cancer. But not just for her, it changes for her family, and for those who are going to begin to take on the new role of being a caregiver. That role can be rewarding, but also difficult, challenging, and exciting all in one. So today we're going to talk about how you can support your loved one, how to balance being a caregiver as well as taking care of yourself, and how to caregive or to provide caregiving after treatment. So a lot of what we're going to talk about is during the treatment, right after diagnoses, how to support and care for your loved one. And then we're going to talk about once treatment is over, now what? Oftentimes it's expected that she should move on and should be happy and it's over and now life and let's get back to what we used to do, but it's not that easy. And so we'll talk about that. And then I have a couple of resources that are available for you as a caregiver. So first, I'd like to know who is here, who's in the audience. Do we have patients, survivors, or is it all caregivers? So if you don't mind, if you could just tell us who you are. And if you're a caregiver, what is your relationship? Spouse, child, parent, sibling, other cousin, granddaughter, grandmother, friend? You could tell me what kind. I'd like to know who's here. Who am I speaking to? And I can't see, so Aurelis is going to tell me.
No one's answered yet. You guys can answer in the chat, or you could just quickly type in the chat or in the Q&A, and you can be anonymous. I'm not going to be calling out names necessarily, but if you just want to remain anonymous, just answer anonymously. But no answers so far. I know I see one staff member. And I'm not sure who our other guests are, but
they're being shy.
Okay, thank you. We have a mastectomy fitter or caregiver.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Any others?
Going once,
Oh,
going
going twice.
twice. Don't be
So are
shy.
you a patient then? If you're not a caregiver, are you a patient? Okay. Quiet.
No, yep, no one else. Oh, wait. Oh, someone else. Okay, the same thing. I'm a mastectomy fitter and a caregiver. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All right.
That's good to
So,
know.
yes, it is good to know. So I like to know, who's in the room. Am I talking to husbands? Am I talking to children who are caring for maybe their mother, or we're talking to parents who are caring for their daughters, their sisters? So I just want to kind of get a sense of who is in the room, but it sounds like friends, but caregivers. So make sure. All right. Oh, looks like someone else is saying something.
Okay. Okay. Another. She was just saying her chat is disabled, but she's a mastectomy fitter.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Judy.
All right. So what is caregiving? What is the roles, responsibilities, and more importantly, expectations? And oftentimes the expectations sometimes could be unrealistic, which causes strain and burden. So it's important to understand that it's physical, you're doing physical and emotional well-being of the survivor. And as I stated, it can be rewarding and demanding. And the caregiving responsibilities is emotional support, daily care, coordination of the care when they're going to the doctor, making sure they're having their appointments, making sure they're not forgetting to take their medication, actually physically helping them get in and out of bed, getting food, running errands, cleaning the house. It could be some of all of that. And we'll talk about how to start delegating so that you are not one person doing all of that. In addition to caring for children, if there are children in the home, pets, we have pets because that's what moms did, or women do. We take care of the animals and everyone. So now we have someone else who's doing that, and that's going to be you as a caregiver. And this often can cause a strain. There's a research out. I read a couple of articles about the strain of caregiving on families, and it causes emotionally and physically when you feel you're unable to meet the needs because of your resources. As all the things I just discussed, if you feel like you can't do it, it's going to cause a strain for you. It's going to cause you to feel like you're not able to handle it. It's overwhelming. And then there's the feeling of burden, where you have this perception of emotional, physical, social, and financial suffering. Some are not able to work anymore. And so as a caregiver, you're not able to work. Your job is now caregiving. And said, 50% of caregivers are not paid. So majority of you are no longer probably not working and now caring for a family member who also is not working, or a friend who's not working. So there's financial strains for you as well as them. And so that impact can be negative. It can negatively impact the quality of life, how you and the survivor are coping, can cause some physical and emotional taxing on the well-being, cause problems with sleeping, either not able to fall asleep or stay asleep, or maybe even sleep too much, and just overall wellness of the survivor and the caregiver's health. So you want to make sure that you begin to pay attention and start recognizing some of the signs and symptoms that you may be experiencing. But how can you address that, or kind of mitigate that, or minimize that? What you want to do, if this is new to you, first time as a caregiver, first time working with someone who's experienced or who's been diagnosed with cancer, you want to learn as much as you can about cancer. Learn the ins and outs. Once they're diagnosed, there are several good books out there, short books that are available. Also going with the patient to the appointments, or if you're unable to attend, try to go virtually, meaning have them have you call in on the phone. I know due to COVID, you can't go to the doctor's office. They have to do a lot of this on their own, but they can take their phone. And you can listen in, because there are probably some things that they won't hear, they won't understand, they don't know how to ask that question, and you can hear that, write it down, take notes, and ask those questions, because you need to understand what can happen or what's happening now and what will happen in the future. I know initially you're caught up in what we need to do right now to get everything taken care of, but this is a lifelong disease. And so it requires you to understand what's happening now and also to prepare for what's going to happen in the future. Because as I'll talk about it later, it doesn't stop when the diagnosis stops. when the treatment stops. But oftentimes people think that, okay, they're out of treatment, they're better, and their life goes on. But it doesn't stop there. So there's continual caregiving. It just looks different. Okay. So how can you begin to support your loved one? First, build a network, build a support system, not just for the patient, but for yourself. And so what do I mean by that? Enlist or solicit or accept help from friends and family. Oftentimes we're like, no, I got it, I can handle it, or no, I don't want to cause any extra strain. No, yes, you do need the help. No, you cannot handle it. This is the time where you want to reach out and accept any help for you as well as the patient. For example, there are some friends who financially want to support, meaning they will give money, pay for certain things, buy food, groceries, say yes. Then there's friends who can't financially, but they have the time. So instead they'll come and clean the house or let the kids come to their house and babysit so that you all can do the things that you need to do. Say yes. Or it could be washing the clothes. It could be going to the grocery store. Whatever it is that people can do, accept it. Figure out a way to release some of those things and those responsibilities so that your responsibility can be on the patient. But more importantly, so that your responsibility of caring for the patient does not become overwhelming. That's because over time, if it becomes overwhelming, then you can begin to exhibit emotional breakdown and symptoms such as depression, anxiety, burden, guilt, anger, resentment. And you don't want that to happen. So you want to begin to build a network. Also, it can be your own friends, building a network with them to have a time to wind down. So identifying a family or friend who on Wednesdays you guys get together and talk, and it's not about your work as a caregiver, it's about you and who you are. So you want to continue to do some of the things that you love and enjoy doing while still caring for a loved one. And so now I'm going to talk about how do you support your loved one as a caregiver. First, one of the things you want to do is start talking about cancer. It's probably like, huh? What do you mean start talking about it? Slowly start having the conversation because communication is key, but it's also difficult, especially when it's about mortality or about illness, about sickness, about things that's just not uplifting. And the breakdown typically happens with communication. So you want to make sure that you continue to communicate and talk to your loved one. Start by saying things like, what are you feeling? How do you feel about all of this? How do you feel about me as a caregiver doing this? How do you feel about what the doctors are saying? But give your loved one the opportunity to share emotions, share how they're feeling, let them know that it's okay. Because if they don't, they'll hold it in and they won't feel safe to share things that are upsetting, but also when things are going well. Listen without judging. And you're probably thinking, well, I don't do that. And it's not that you're intentionally doing it, but some of the words that we use can come across as judgmental, such as "you should be happy now," or "don't do not say that," or "you should feel better now that you no longer have the extenders," or "you should feel better now that you're not in chemo." So you don't want to put the shoulda, woulda, couldas, because those a level of expectation to make them feel like, I shouldn't be feeling this way, so something may be wrong with me. And I understand it may not be intentional, but it can come across as being judgmental. Also, it doesn't allow them the opportunity to express themselves, because it'll begin to help, they'll start downplaying how they're feeling. So when you say things, if something was said like, "you shouldn't feel that way, you should feel better now," and they actually don't feel better, they won't feel comfortable sharing that with you. So then when you come to them and say, "How are you doing? How are you feeling?" they won't feel comfortable to share their true feelings. Instead, they're going to mask and make it seem like everything is okay. And oftentimes, a lot of the clients or the patients that I see, they do that. They say that people ask how they're feeling. One of the questions I ask is, do you say you're okay? Or people feel like you look good and you really don't feel good. And that's one of the things they say, yes. Oftentimes on the outside, it may look like they're doing well physically, but on the inside, they're in a lot of pain. So you want to make sure that you give them the opportunity to express and share how they're feeling. Also, continuing to talk about, be honest, have real discussions about changes and their feelings about these changes. So another one concern that I get with the patients is physically, their changes, their body has changed. Even when there's reconstruction, there's still a change. You may think, oh, it looks good, it's not, but to them, it's still a change. And so to them, what you need to do is to be honest. I had one patient who they said their mother was brutally honest, but the mother was just trying to help her to feel better. And so she would say, "No, you can't wear that one. No, you can't wear that. You can't, nope, you can't do that one anymore." And initially it was hurtful for her, but then she realized, okay, my mom is just being honest because it does not look good. It's not making me look good. And so it was an honest conversation. Initially, it was a hurtful one, but it was honest for her. It was good for her to hear that her mom was being honest with her. So you want to be honest about any changes, any feelings that you may be feeling. For one, you can be honest to say, "I'm scared. I'm scared about all of this, what's happening, what's going on," or "I don't know what to do," or "I'm not sure, I'm fear or unknown about the changes." And again, allowing yourself to share how you truly feel and express how you feel so that they can do the same. Let them know how much you care. As I just said, talk about your fears. "I care. I'm also scared. I don't know what to do. I love you." Or "I don't understand when you do X, Y, and Z." Or "When I ask you A, B, and C, does this make you feel X, Y, and Z?" So you want to begin by having conversation, communicating. Sometimes it's easier to write a letter. That's one of the things that I've seen some patients do. Just journal and write and say how you feel, and then give it to them and give them the opportunity to read. And then you guys talk about it later if you don't feel comfortable actually talking and sharing. But what you don't want to do is keep it in. Excuse me. And so if you can't share it with your loved one, then I would recommend reaching out to someone who you do feel comfortable, who you can support, who you feel comfortable sharing information with, that can help you to then go back home to learn how to communicate with your loved one. You also want to resist the urge of saying or reassuring that everything will be okay, or "you will be fine," or "it's going to be good," because that might not be true. Although they may have heard good news from the doctor, or they may not, you don't know. We don't know. There is a possibility that it can reoccur. There is a possibility that it can metastasize. We don't know. So you don't want to say everything will be okay, because it may not. Next, you want to understand that communication is different for each person. So in a part of talking, you got to learn how to talk, how to communicate effectively with your loved one so that they hear what you're saying, and not perceive or assume you're saying something else. You can do that by clarifying, having conversation, but you want to make sure that you all are able to effectively communicate with each other so that when things are going well or there's some challenges, you're able to communicate that to everyone. Also, everyone will always not agree with each other. So there may be some times when you two do not agree. And again, that's okay. It's called life. It's called agree to disagree. But you want to make sure that you come to a conclusion or a resolution that will be in the best interest for both. And again, as I stated, consider seeking outside support. It may be that you can talk to another sibling, or that you can talk to another family member, or maybe that you talk to a clergy, or that you actually go get and speak to a therapist on your own. But you want to make sure that you don't hold it in, because what happens is resentment starts, anger, and guilt. And when that happens, there's a breakdown in how you're going to be able to care for not only your loved one, but yourself. I always say you are giving, and so you have to replenish your cup. You're study pouring into someone else's cup, but you have to pour into your own cup. And so what does that look like? And we'll talk about that. Any questions so far? Or comments?
Nothing yet.
Okay. So balancing caregiving and your own responsibilities. Again, seek help for yourself before it becomes a problem. And early on, don't wait until there's a blowout. When it's getting to be uncomfortable or overwhelming or too much, seek help. And it doesn't necessarily mean like a therapist. It could be you're going to talk to someone that you trust. It could be, you know what, caring for her and the kids today is just too much. Mom, dad, sister, friend, can the kids come stay with you? I'm just going to be by myself today. Whatever, just get help before it becomes a problem. Because as I state, you cannot care for someone without taking care of yourself. Accept from others, help from others, as I talked about. Cooking food, running errands, doing the house cleaning, keeping the kids, maybe let them go with family members on the weekend, if that's someone you trust, or go with grandparents, or go to day camp, or after school program. But give yourself time to just be with you, because you are now taking on a role that, again, most likely you're not getting paid for. And it's taking you from a role in which you were getting paid. And again, it's rewarding, but it's, again, challenging. And once you acknowledge that and accept that, then all of these other solutions and options will just come naturally. It won't be hard for you to accept help from others. It won't be hard for you to delegate to others. It won't be hard for you to take some time for yourself. You want to focus on short-term accomplishments by setting realistic goals for you and your family. So, for example, this week we were able to get some things that go to the doctor, come home and not doing, she was not doing well, or she was doing good. And so today was a good day. So you want to acknowledge that. When things are not going well, what are some of the things that you can do for each other to make it better? Set goals that are realistic, not, okay, when she's feeling better, we're going to go away for the weekend. That might not be a realistic goal. It might just go out for the day and go to the park. It might just sit out in the back or sit on the porch. But whatever, take a walk. whatever it is, you want to make sure that it's realistic, because if not, if it's unrealistic, then it'll set you and your loved one up for failure, and you don't want to do that. Work, if you're working and you're no longer having to work or reduce your work hours, you want to make sure you have a conversation with your employer about what's happening within your family, and see if they can work with you with the schedule, reduce hours, change hours. Maybe because you have to go to the doctor, you can do your work a little earlier or do it a little later, stay later, but make some adjustments. If you're in school, possibly talk to your instructors or your teachers to see if they can work with you, or maybe take a leave of absence from school, so it doesn't impact your grades. What you don't want to do is try to continue to do everything that you've been doing and add this, because that is then setting yourself up for failure, because it's most likely not being realistic. Thinking about caring for a loved one, caring for yourself, caring for, especially if you're a student or working, still having to go to work, still having to meet the demands of the doctor's appointments, help with medication, help with therapy, physical therapy, helping them get in and out of the bed. Then emotionally taxing. So can you imagine having to do all that and then have to sit down and write a paper or sit down and read a book? Not necessarily realistic and possible. And overall, you may feel like you're doing it, but then your grades may drop. Now you're asking the instructor, asking for concessions or help, or what can you do, or maybe even flunk out of school. And you don't want to do that when you realize you were going to take on this role and being a caregiver. You go to the instructor and they can work with you to take a leave of absence. Grades doesn't drop, doesn't impact you. You start back up in the next semester. So you want to make sure that you reach out and explore all options, so that it relieves the stress from yourself. And then also, you may or may not be aware of the FMLA, or Family Medical Leave Act. And this is pretty much for large employers. I think it's a 51 or more employees. You get 12 weeks off to take care of a family member who is seriously ill. But definitely there are certain criteria must be met. You would just have to talk to your employer to get details. But you can take that time off, and that time off can look consistently, you're taking time off, or it can be every week for the next 4 months, you have to take your loved one to physical therapy. And so you're having the healthcare provider complete the paperwork for family medical leave, and it doesn't count against you, and it secures your job. So your job can't fire you, or can't, I've heard of like you get points. You get so many points in a year, you can possibly get fired or terminated or things of that nature. So this protects you from all of that. So I recommend talking to the healthcare provider who are caring for your loved one, regarding completing paperwork. And again, it can be a long term, over the next month that you're off, or it can be intermittently when you have to take them to doctor's visits, or if they're not feeling well and you have to stay home and take care of them. It's up to you and the healthcare provider and your loved one how to arrange time off. Next, we have, now we're going to talk about how do you care for yourself. And as I talked about earlier, there are signs and symptoms that you want to look for, and pay real close attention to, because that's when you know that it's getting to be too much. And so what are some of those signs? Fatigue, tired, not having enough energy. It could be that you're not getting enough sleep, or it could be that you're getting too much sleep. Too much sleep can also cause you to be tired. It can be you're getting enough, but you're just doing too much, and there's just so much fatigue and tired and always tired. Isolating yourself from others. And I don't mean getting some me time and going to just debris or regroup or just let down. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that you find yourself not wanting to be around others. You find yourself being in your room, not interacting, not doing things that you used to do, or things that brought you pleasure. That's what I'm saying is some signs and symptoms to look for. not eating the same, and not so much that you are so busy, and so you're just not eating the same, but literally not having an appetite, no longer have the desire to eat. Even though you are busy, you'll still pick up a snack or buy this or eat that. But if you find yourself, you look up and it's 4 or 5 and you haven't had anything to eat all day, that's a problem. And again, because you have no appetite, or eating too much. Find yourself overeating or eating too much food. And that may be a sign that you are numbing or filling a void or emotionally eating. It can be any of those. As I stated before, not engaging in activities that you usually or used to find enjoyable. Sleeping, too much, too little, difficulty falling asleep, or once you fall asleep, you find yourself waking up in the middle of the night and maybe not being able to fall back to sleep or go back to sleep. Tearful, sadness, just no joy. Some feelings of helplessness or hopelessness, or what am I doing? Did I make the right decision? Not able to concentrate. Anxiety, always worrying, thinking about the unknown. Fear, what now? Are you doing the right things? Are you not doing the right things? Not able to make decisions. As a caregiver, your loved one is looking to you to help. Am I doing the right thing? Am I making? And then you're looking to them saying, I don't know you're doing the right thing. I'm not sure. So you're not able to concentrate or make decisions, or not able to ask for help. Maybe the stigma, maybe feeling like you should be able to handle it, or maybe feeling guilty or feeling like I've taken on this responsibility, I should be able to handle it. No, caregiving it takes a network, it takes a team. You may be the primary caregiver, but as a caregiver, you're going to need support, caregiving for your loved one. Why is this important? Because it can lead to increase, again, in physical problems. If you're doing everything physically, your body will begin to break down. You'll begin to have somatic complaints, stomach pains, migraines, back pains, aching. It can lead to heart disease, increase in the heart and your blood pressure. It can cause you to have sleeping problems. And then when all of that happens, there is infections. You're more susceptible to infections, and then depression and fatigue. So you want to make sure that you are paying attention to your body while you're paying attention to your loved ones. Because as I stated before, you can't give from an empty cup. And so you have to take care of yourself so that you're able to take care of them. So some ways that you can address your own needs and emotions. Plan and do things that you enjoy. Even though you're taking on this role, it should not consume your entire life. Just like when you get a new job, you take on a new job, you still do the things that you enjoy. This is the new job. It's just one you're not getting paid for, most likely, but it's still a new job. It's still a new responsibility. And so think about how you can integrate this new role into your everyday so that you can continue to do things that you enjoy. And so there's 3 types of activities that you got to think about that you do for yourself. Activities that involve other people, they give you a sense of accomplishment, and that makes you feel good and just feel relaxed. And so when I say involve other people, could be going to lunch, given COVID, things are getting a little bit more relaxed, or it could be maybe doing a virtual call, it could be a phone call, it could be taking a walk, exercising, whatever, but involving someone else. Remember, you don't want to isolate yourself from others. You want to continue to socialize. As humans, we have to have interactions with others. It's just in our nature. So you want to make sure you try to plan something at least once a week with someone else. And it could be your loved one. You and your loved one take a walk. But find something that you are able to do with other people. Something that gives you a sense of accomplishment, whatever that is. It could be making sure you walk 4 miles a day. It could be whatever type of activity, but something that you feel good about and you feel like you've accomplished. Again, a realistic expectation, not something that you could set yourself up for failure. So if you know walking 4 miles a day is impossible, given your schedule, then make it 2, make it 1. But you want to do something that gives you a sense of accomplishment. And finally, things that make you feel good, and that is relaxing. So don't go find or try to do something that it's overwhelming too. If hiking makes you feel good and relaxing, then do it. But if you know that your knees or you're not feeling it physically, and so after you go take a walk, now you're just tired, or go hike, you're just overwhelmed, you're tired and can't move, that's not what I'm talking about. So you want to find something that makes you feel good, relax. If that means having a glass of wine, if that means just watching TV, if it means reading a book. I always say try to find things that are free first, and then next are the least expensive, because those are the things that you most likely will do. When it starts to cost money, or you have to go and do all these things, then the more you think about it, the least likely it'll happen. So start with some things that you can do with other people, sense of accomplishment that makes you feel good, that are free, and then move to the least expensive. Next, you want to talk about things other than cancer. So cancer should not be all that you talk about and all that you do. Yes, you're caring for someone who is a survivor or going through treatment of cancer, but that should not be the focus of your day. When you are doing those 3 things, you should not leave with now all you're talking about is all the work, or did you see that new cancer drug, or did you see that, and what are the statistics, and no. Talk about other things other than cancer. And that also includes with your loved one. They were someone before they had the cancer diagnosis. And so you want to continue to acknowledge that person, and not just you have cancer, you're a survivor, now what? So have different types of conversation throughout the day that does not pertain to cancer diagnosis or treatment. You also want to start to build new habits. Start doing a part of the activities, doing things that are a sense of accomplishment and that you enjoy, and maybe new habits that you're now going to try. And then you're going to reward yourself when you're consistent with those habits. For example, as I talked about, walking 2 miles a day. Maybe you didn't walk at all. So now you're going to start incorporating exercise. So this is a way. And then how do you reward yourself? Buy yourself a new pair of sneakers if you can. Get you a new cute little outfit, yoga outfit, or workout outfit, or maybe incorporate yoga or Pilates or something on YouTube. There's so many videos. And what can you do? Well, when you first started, you was just on the rug. Now you go get you a nice little mat out of Ross or somewhere that's $5, $6, $7. That's now comfortable and cushy. But reward yourself to consist so that you can be consistent in doing this. So that's something you can do. But if you can't and you need help, there's always help. There's always support groups. And I'll talk about that a little bit more. Support groups for caregivers to get through this process, because as I stated, it's rewarding, but it's also challenging and demanding. So now what? Now we're talking about during the treatment. Now we're talking about after treatment. What does that look like? Excuse me. Oftentimes, okay, no longer getting chemo, no longer going to maybe physical therapy, no longer having to go to the doctor every week or every other week or every month. Now it's every 6 months or annually. Now what? No, it's not over. Returning to normal life is not always easy. It is one of the most challenging, because again, it's setting up expectations that may be unrealistic. You have to think about your loved one has just been diagnosed with a chronic illness that is lifelong. And so now they have to adjust or return to what their life was before, or adjust to how their life will be. And this, for them, can be overwhelming. It can be isolating. It can be lonely because the world is expecting them to, you're better now. You survived this. And so you as a caregiver may even be thinking the same thing. Like, I was there with you when you first got the diagnosis. I've been there with you during the treatment. I was there with you when you couldn't get out of bed. I was there when you couldn't take a bath. I was there when you couldn't lift your arm. All of those things I was there for you for. But now you can do those things now. So remember, I talk about resisting the urge of, you should be okay now. No. And so this is where communication continues to be important, because you're going to ask them, what is it that you need now? How can I continue to support you, but support you in a different way? Like I said, as a survivor, she has survived cancer, and typically that's what people think is important. Oh, you're done, you're over, so that's what's important. Now you can move on with your life. Now you can go back to work. And she may want to go back to work, but maybe internally not feeling it, emotionally not feeling that they can do the work. Still, there's some fatigue, even though physically when you see her, she looks fine. Inside, often they don't. They feel like they're not meeting the demands of work, and when they return to work, or can't be there all day. And then you have to think about, once they return to work, then it's like, oh, okay, now you can return to the duties in the home. Cleaning, cooking, whatever that looks like at home. It may not always be okay, may not be able to do that. Then we have to think about incorporating things in their lives that they enjoy, and not just, again, about caring for themselves as it relates to cancer. So you want to make sure that there's no unrealistic expectations that are established by people in the world who, oh, you look good, you survived, I would have never known. And realistically, inside, they're not feeling that way. There's an emotional roller coaster, fear of recurrence, that's always there. You may also have that same fear of recurrence. So realistically, you want to understand that she is reevaluating her life. What is my life now like? What will my life be like after treatment? How do I establish new goals and expectations for myself? What are some goals? What do I want to do now? I have one client or one patient who didn't want to go back to work and do the things that she was doing. She wanted to now give back and work with survivors of cancer. She wanted to do something different. That's okay too. So oftentimes people think, oh, you can go back to work, you can go back, and they may not want to go back to doing those things. They have a new leash on life and want to do things differently. And so as their caregiver, you want to understand and learn how to support them through that process. Also, different things matter to each person. Different things are important to them. Things that may have been important to them in the past may no longer be important because of what they've experienced and what they've been through. And so certain things that are now important and now matter to them. And so as their caregiver, you want to find out, what is that? How can you help her? How do you help her transition from being a patient to a survivor? What type of support does she need after treatment in her daily routine? You know, before you may have been helping with literally everything. Then as she's gotten better, you're helping with less. And now that she's physically able to do some things, or maybe able to return to work, what are some things that you're now going to do and help her in her daily routine? Because again, it's not over. So you may still need to be a part of the doctor's visits. You may still need to go virtually and participate. You may need to remind her about doctor's visits and doctor's appointments and certain things. But you want to keep providing her with support. You don't want to leave her now. This is not the time to say, okay, you got this, I'm out, I'm good, you're good. You don't want to do that. You still want to provide the support, but you want to communicate with her to find out what support looks like. What does that need? You also want to celebrate her. And celebrate all of this, but based on her capacity. She may not want to celebrate right now. She may also want to celebrate. So you don't want to, okay, it's over, you're now back to work, you've got the clear from the doctor, you can move forward physically again. And as far as the doctor says, she may feel that way, but internally and emotionally, she may not. So you want to make sure this is what she wants and not necessarily what you want for her. So oftentimes there may be a celebration at the end because you're now done with treatment and it's over and let's move forward. But make sure that's something that she wants to do and it's not what you want to do for her. And a part of that may be planning a trip. Maybe you guys can now take a trip. Again, with COVID, I know there's a lot who's saying, nope, not me, not going anywhere. But a trip can be something small. It doesn't necessarily have to be on a plane. It could be in a car, taking an hour or so drive and going somewhere and just getting away from the everyday scenery and the hustle and bustle of Atlanta. So whatever a trip looks like for you all and your family and for your loved one, maybe that's something you consider. Also think about or be considerate when you're asking the question, how are you? Because that is a loaded question. So you want to make sure you're okay and ready to hear and able to support whatever it is that she has to say. Because again, externally and physically, it may look like she's okay, but internally she may not be. And so again, you want to resist her. Oh, well, I thought you was okay, or you should be good now. You want to resist that. And you want to refer to her as a survivor. She has definitely survived cancer treatment and has gotten the go from the doctor. Remember who she was prior to the cancer diagnosis. I've talked about that. Remember all the wonderful things about her. Try not to just talk about her as a survivor, as a cancer survivor, but remember we used to go salsa dancing, or remember we used to do yoga, or remember we used to do some cycling. Remember you said you wanted to do, I know everybody wants Peloton, maybe that's just me, but Peloton or something, but whatever. Go back to who she was before the cancer and continue to celebrate that person because that person is still there. And as I stated, continue to help her with the doctor's appointment. If that means going, being a part, hopefully once COVID is gotten better and there's less restrictions, you can actually physically attend, but in the meantime, continue to try to attend virtually. And then one thing that often are not want to talk about and discuss, and when you all are ready, especially if you're a family member or a sibling or a child or immediate family who's caring for a loved one, genetic testing. That is something you may not want to think about, but it is something you definitely need to talk about because there are early detection and prevention programs that can help other loved ones from possibly experiencing the same thing. So when you're ready, when you're comfortable, when the loved one is comfortable and ready to talk about it, it's definitely a conversation that needs to be had to help other family members. Also, there may be a change in lifestyle. So you want to join your loved one. Diet, we have a lot of nutritional educational events about how to eat different, how to eat healthy. I know when my dad was diagnosed with prostate cancer, one of the things he had to do was change his diet. Didn't necessarily motivate me initially, but over time and over years, I've kind of jumped on bandwagon with that diet. We've got rid of sugar. So certain things he had to do with his diet. Exercise, he can't get me one day, maybe, but he exercises more. So maybe exercising, and you can join your loved one, again, so they're not alone, isolated, feeling like they're doing these things alone, or they have to do this because of the cancer. No, this is a lifestyle change. And so we as a family are going to join and support you and do things differently. You also want to take time to just reflect on your experience as a caregiver. How has it changed your life? Acknowledging the experiences that you've given, that has given you joy and excitement. So reflect on that, talk about that. If it's too difficult, I'm gonna always say, seek help. It could be group, it can be your own therapy, but seek a safe space, place, and person who you can talk to and talk about some of the things that you may be struggling with or not feel comfortable with or have questions about, or just vent. Everyone thinks, therapy or counseling is just about pathology, something's wrong. No, that's the other side of wellness. Mental wellness is the other side of mental illness. So just to be well may be an opportunity to just go and talk to someone and bounce ideas and just have a safe place to where you can learn different ways to cope, different ways to do things and support yourself in a healthy way. And then finally, coming soon, Turning Point. We are working on a caregiver to caregiver, but it's support groups for our caregivers, supporting individuals who are supporting their loved ones. So we're working on 2 different ones, one for husbands and partners of women with breast cancer, and then family and friends, caregiver support group. So it's gonna come this summer. We are working on it. We are making some changes to a lot of the support groups here at Turning Point. And this is one that we are planning to add. And we will, Aurelis does it so well, she will send an e-blast with all the information regarding support groups at Turning Point. And then last, there is resources. And so I'll leave this up for you who are interested. But there is Caregiving, Family Caregiver Alliance, and then National Alliance for Caregiving. And so caregiving.com, it's a grassroots organization that provides practical information on being caregiver, managing the stresses of caregiving, and solutions for caregiving situations. And so that's their information. And then the Family Caregiving Alliance offers programs at the national, state, and local level to support and sustain caregivers. These are not literally specific to breast cancer caregiving, but just caregiving overall. And then the last one is the Alliance for Caregiving, National Alliance for Caregiving. And it's a coalition of national organizations that focus on issues of family caregiving. So if you're someone who's about advocating for more awareness, more services at the national level, developing policies and programs to support you increase awareness about family caregiving and issues within the state, then that's what the National Alliance for Caregiving. And so that's their website. So as you can see, it's caregiving.com and caregiving.org. But they're definitely different. All right. Oops. Any questions?
There's not any in the chat box right now, but we'll just leave it, give a few minutes, a few seconds. If anybody has any last minute questions, please use the chat box or the Q&A. And again, you can ask anonymously. While we wait to see if there are any questions, I did want to mention that if you have any questions about today, feel free to send us an email to staff@myturningpoint.org. If you want to have a private one-on-one with Naynette, I'm sorry, Naynette, I didn't realize you weren't over. If you want to have a one-on-one session with her, also just email us at staff@myturningpoint.org and we'll make sure to connect you guys. Oh, there's a question. Oh, just a compliment. Enjoyed the presentation. Spot on.
Thank you.
I'm trying to say that with a British accent, but thank you, Judy.
So anything you learned, take away from this event that you'd like to share, or any resources that you maybe want to share with others? Quiet.
Oh, just saying, take care of yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Absolutely.
very important. I mean, I always say when you get on the airplane, looks like I'm frozen. Can you see
You're
me?
not. No, we see you.
Okay. Well, my screen is frozen. Okay. When you get on the airplane, first thing they say when they're teaching you everything, get the oxygen, put the oxygen on yourself, and then put it on the other. But oftentimes when we're caring for others, we're thinking about taking care of putting the oxygen on them, and then we try to put it on ourselves, and that just doesn't work. And so you want to make sure that you are taking care of yourself so that you can be a better caregiver to your loved one. Thank you for your time. There's the link, staff@myturningpoint.org, if you want to donate. Go ahead.
No, just another comment. It was just a good reminder to care for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you. Well, that's it for me. Thank you all for attending. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing some of you for future educational events.
Yes, and just as a reminder, before we go ahead and finish for today, we do have an education event coming up this Friday, also at 11 a.m. It's also virtual, it's free, and it's going to be by our dietitian, Lisa, on becoming just a healthier version of you now that we're moving into spring. It's a great time to transition into taking care of ourselves physically. So if you guys want to join us for that, just visit myturningpoint.org, our monthly calendar there, and you can register for Friday's event. So we hope to see you there. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you, Naynette. Wonderful presentation as always. And we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye. Thank you.